March 19th, 2026, 3:47 a.m. local time. Prince Sultan Air Base, 75 miles southeast of Riyadh. That's when Iranian missiles hit the primary logistics hub for American air operations in the Gulf. Not a near miss, not a warning shot, direct impact on hardened aircraft shelters and personnel barracks. 15 American soldiers wounded, 3 critically. And here's the detail the Pentagon is not talking about in any of their carefully worded statements. Saudi air defenses didn't fire a single interceptor, not one. The missiles came in, the radars tracked them, and nothing launched to stop them. Let me tell you exactly why that matters and why the silence from Washington is more telling than any official briefing could ever be. Prince Sultan Air Base. The Saudis call it PSAB. American forces have operated from this location since the 1990s. It's not a minor outpost. This is a full-scale air operations center with hardened shelters for F-15 Strike Eagles, KC-135 tanker aircraft, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and the logistical infrastructure that keeps American air power functional across the entire region. Approximately 2,700 American personnel are stationed there. Billions of dollars in aircraft and munitions are stored there. And the base sits on a sprawling complex covering over 12 square miles of desert with multiple hardened command centers, fuel storage facilities, and ammunition depots. This is not a target you hit by accident. This is a target you hit to send a message that American forces in the Gulf are vulnerable, regardless of where they're positioned or what defenses surround them. The weapons Iran used were Khorramshahr-4 ballistic missiles. That's the extended range variant of Iran's liquid-fueled missile family. Range, 2,000 kilometers. Payload, weight 100 kilograms. Speed, during terminal phase, Mach 8. The Khorramshahr-4 is not hypersonic. It follows a standard ballistic trajectory. This is important because it means Saudi air defenses should have been able to intercept it. The Patriot PC-3 batteries deployed around PSAB are specifically designed to engage this exact type of threat. And they didn't fire. Not mechanical failure, not lack of warning. The systems were operational, the radars detected the incoming missiles, and the decision was made not to engage. I want you to understand what that decision represents, because it's not about one failed intercept. It's about the entire defensive posture in the Gulf collapsing under the weight of a threat environment that has fundamentally changed. Let me walk you through the timeline of what actually happened that night. 3:42 a.m., Iranian mobile launchers positioned somewhere in western Iran fire 4 Khorramshahr-4 missiles toward Saudi Arabia. Launch detection happens within seconds. American early warning satellites pick up the infrared signature. Data transmits to U.S. Central Command. Saudi Air Defense Command gets the alert simultaneously. Flight time from launch to impact, approximately 5 minutes. That gives Saudi Patriot batteries 4 minutes to calculate trajectories, achieve missile lock, and fire interceptors. 3:44 a.m. Saudi radar systems confirm the missiles are heading toward Prince Sultan Air Base, not toward Riyadh, not toward oil infrastructure, toward the American military installation. Patriot batteries around PSAB go to ready status. Interceptors are loaded. Radar locks are acquired. Saudi air defense commanders are on secure channels with American officers at the base. And then nothing happens. The interceptors stay in their launchers. 3:47 a.m. 4 Khorramshahr-4 warheads impact Prince Sultan Air Base. 2 hit hardened aircraft shelters on the northern perimeter. 1 hits a logistics building near the center of the complex. 1 overshoots and impacts outside the base perimeter. The explosions are massive. Each warhead carries 1,800 kilograms of high explosive. That's enough to destroy reinforced concrete structures and send fragmentation across hundreds of meters. 15 American soldiers are wounded by shrapnel and blast effects. 3 are critically injured and medevaced to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany within 12 hours. No fatalities, but that's luck, not defense. Here's what the Pentagon said in their official statement released 8 hours after the strike. U.S. Central Command confirms that Iranian missiles struck Prince Sultan Air Base. A small number of U.S. personnel sustained injuries. All wounded service members are receiving medical care. The United States is coordinating with Saudi partners to assess the incident. Notice what they didn't say. They didn't say the attack was intercepted. They didn't say Saudi defenses engaged the threat. They didn't say American forces are protected. They said coordination and assessment. That's the language you use when you don't have a defensive success to report, and you need time to figure out what the failure means strategically. Saudi Arabia's official statement was even more telling. The kingdom condemns the Iranian aggression and reaffirms its commitment to regional stability. No mention of air defense, no mention of interception attempts, no mention of why Patriot batteries that cost Saudi Arabia $3 billion didn't fire at missiles heading toward an American base on Saudi soil. The silence is not diplomatic caution. The silence is the sound of a defense strategy that just stopped working. Let me explain why those Patriot batteries didn't fire, because this is the detail that changes everything. Saudi Arabia operates approximately 15 Patriot PAC-3 batteries. Each battery costs roughly $200 million. Each interceptor costs $4 million. When a Patriot battery fires at an incoming ballistic missile, standard doctrine is to launch 2 interceptors per target to ensure a high probability of kill. That means engaging 4 missiles requires 8 interceptors at a cost of $32 million. Saudi Arabia's total Patriot interceptor stockpile is estimated at around 600 missiles. Over the last 6 weeks, Saudi air defenses have been engaging Iranian drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles at a rate that has already depleted approximately 200 interceptors. That's 1/3 of their total stockpile gone in 45 days. The math is simple and brutal. If Saudi Arabia continues engaging every threat at current consumption rates, their interceptor stockpile runs out in 90 days. After that, the Patriot batteries become extremely expensive lawn ornaments. They have the radars, they have the launchers, they don't have the missiles. The decision not to fire at the Khorramshahr 4 missiles heading toward PSAB was not a tactical failure. It was a strategic calculation. Saudi commanders looked at the incoming threat, calculated the intercept probability, assessed their remaining stockpile, and decided that spending 8 interceptors on a threat that might miss or hit non-critical infrastructure was not worth depleting their defensive capacity further. They chose to preserve interceptors for threats they consider more critical. Iranian missiles heading toward Saudi oil fields, yes, fire everything. Iranian missiles heading toward an American base, let the Americans handle their own defense. Except the Americans at PSAB don't have their own air defense systems deployed. They rely on Saudi Patriots. And the Saudis just decided that protecting American forces is no longer worth the cost. This is not about Saudi-American relations souring. This is about the economics of missile defense collapsing under sustained attack. Patriot interceptors cost $4 million each. Iranian Khorramshahr 4 missiles cost approximately $1 million each. Every time Saudi Arabia fires 2 interceptors at one Iranian missile, they are spending $8 million to stop a $1 million threat. Iran can sustain that exchange ratio indefinitely. Saudi Arabia cannot. Iranian missile production is estimated at 15 to 20 ballistic missiles per month. Patriot interceptor production in the United States is approximately 500 missiles per year, shared among every country that operates Patriots, including the US, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Israel, Japan, South Korea, and Poland. Saudi Arabia is not getting 500 new interceptors. They're getting maybe 100 if they're lucky. That means their consumption rate is double their resupply rate. The stockpile depletes no matter what they do. The United States faces the same problem. American forces in the Gulf rely on Saudi, Emirati, and Kuwaiti air defenses because deploying independent U.S. Patriot batteries to cover every American installation in the region would require more batteries than the U.S. military has available. The entire U.S. inventory is around 60 Patriot batteries. 15 are in Europe, 10 are in the Pacific, 20 are in the United States for homeland defense and training. That leaves 15 batteries for the Middle East, spread across multiple countries and protecting critical infrastructure, not just military bases. Prince Sultan Air Base doesn't have a dedicated U.S. Patriot battery. It relies on Saudi coverage. And that coverage just failed not because the system doesn't work, but because the Saudis can't afford to use it. Let me walk you through what the physical damage at PSAB actually means operationally. 2 hardened aircraft shelters were hit. These are reinforced concrete structures designed to protect fighter aircraft from anything except a direct hit by a heavy warhead. They got direct hits by heavy warheads. The shelters are damaged but not destroyed. The aircraft inside, 1 F-15E Strike Eagle in one shelter, maintenance equipment in the other, survive because hardened shelters do their job when the explosion happens outside, but the shelters will need repairs before they're fully operational again. That's weeks of work. 1 logistics building was destroyed. This is where spare parts, maintenance tools, and electronic components are stored. The building is gone. The contents are destroyed. Replacing that material means flying in tons of equipment from U.S. bases in Germany or directly from the continental United States. That takes time and airlift capacity. More importantly, it tells every American airman at PSAB that the base they're operating from is not protected. The Saudis won't defend it, and the U.S. doesn't have the systems in place to defend it independently. 15 American soldiers wounded, 3 critically. Let me be very clear about what critical injuries mean in this context. These are soldiers with life-threatening wounds who required immediate surgical intervention and long-term intensive care. Blast injuries cause internal bleeding, collapsed lungs, traumatic brain injuries from overpressure waves, and shrapnel wounds that sever arteries. The fact that no one died is because American combat medicine is the best in the world and because the soldiers hit by shrapnel were far enough from the actual warhead impacts to survive. If one of those missiles had hit a barracks directly instead of an aircraft shelter, we'd be talking about dozens of fatalities, not 15 wounded. Iran knows this. They targeted hardened shelters, not soft personnel areas, because killing American soldiers triggers a response that Iran may not want yet. Wounding them, damaging infrastructure, proving that American bases are vulnerable, that sends the message without crossing the line that forces an immediate escalation. But here's the strategic problem. Iran just demonstrated that they can hit American forces in Saudi Arabia with ballistic missiles, and there is no defensive response that stops them. Not because American or Saudi technology failed, because the defensive systems are too expensive to use against the volume of threats Iran can generate. And once that becomes clear, once it becomes operationally confirmed that American forces in the Gulf are targetable and undefended, every calculation about U.S. force posture in the region changes. American military strategy in the Middle East is built on the assumption that U.S. bases are secure rear areas where forces can operate without direct threat to their safety. Troops stationed at PSAB are logistics personnel, maintainers, drone operators, intelligence analysts. They are not frontline combat troops. They are the support structure that enables combat operations elsewhere. If those support bases become combat zones themselves, if personnel stationed there are getting hit by missile strikes regularly, the entire operational model breaks. You cannot run sustained air operations when the mechanics fixing your aircraft are sheltering from missile attacks. You cannot maintain intelligence operations when your analysts are being medevaced with blast injuries. The support infrastructure that makes American power projection possible in the region requires safe operating environments, and those environments no longer exist. The wounded soldiers are being treated, the damaged facilities are being repaired, but the operational reality has changed permanently. American commanders at PSAB now know that Iranian missiles can reach them, Saudi defenses will not engage, and there is no other protective system in place. Every American service member stationed there understands they are vulnerable, and that understanding changes behavior. Retention rates drop, morale degrades, operational tempo slows, because personnel are constantly calculating risk. This is not speculation. This is documented human behavior in sustained threat environments. When people believe they are unprotected, they start prioritizing survival over mission, and mission effectiveness degrades even if no additional attacks occur. The Pentagon's silence is not about protecting operational security. It's about avoiding the question they don't have a good answer for. If Saudi Arabia won't use their air defenses to protect American forces, what is the U.S. plan to defend those forces independently? The answer is, there isn't one that doesn't require deploying additional Patriot batteries, THAAD systems, or Aegis-equipped ships, all of which are in short supply and needed elsewhere. The U.S. cannot defend every American base in the Gulf with independent systems. The strategy has always relied on host nation defenses, and host nations are now making economic calculations that leave American forces exposed. Iran understands this completely. The strike on PSAB was not an attempt to destroy the base. It was a demonstration that American forces in Saudi Arabia are targetable, that Saudi defenses will not engage, and that the United States cannot respond without escalating in ways that risk broader conflict. Iran is systematically testing the limits of American defensive capability and finding that the limits are much lower than public statements suggest. Every successful strike that goes unintercepted, every base that gets hit without triggering overwhelming retaliation, moves the acceptable threshold of violence higher. What was unthinkable 6 months ago, direct attacks on American forces, is now operational reality. And the question is not whether Iran will strike again. The question is what target they choose next and whether American forces will still be there when the next missile impacts. Share this because mainstream coverage is showing you the Pentagon statement and casualty numbers. They are not showing you the interceptor depletion rates, the cost exchange ratios, or the strategic decision by Saudi Arabia to stop defending American forces. Both are true. Only one explains why 15 American soldiers are wounded and no defensive systems fired. The attack happened. The defense did not. And the gap between those two facts is where American strategy in the Gulf is collapsing in real time.